Adam stepped into the office of another teacher, Daedalus, a man he had heard of, and he was curious as to what he wanted from him. The room was filled with partially completed devices, which eluded him. From wings to metal figures. Standing over a table was a man, and his son by his side. They looked at some drawings. The man waved Adam over to join in their conversation. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today, we meet a brilliant inventor from Greek mythology, which even the god of the forge respected, Daedalus. Daedalus is an inventor from Greek legend whose brilliance rivaled that of those like Leonardo da Vinci. His inventions include things like glue, carpentry, tools, and more. Now, his parentage varies widely depending on the source. Even his birthplace is disputed. Some claim he is from Athens, and others Crete. When he was born in Athens, there were issues. He was often said to be amongst Athena's favorites. As with many geniuses, he was arrogant. Oh, he loved to show off his inventions and the talent of his craftsmanship, but couldn't handle anyone that could challenge his level of skill. That even included his own nephew, either called Perdix, Talos, or Kalos. As a boy, he was said to have helped invent the saw and the compass, and in his envy and arrogance, Daedalus threw his own nephew from the Acropolis. Thankfully, Athena stepped in and saved the boy by turning him into a partridge. Of course, Daedalus was arrested, tried, and sentenced to exile from Athens. From there, he would head to Crete. You see, the relationship between Athens and Crete was not good. Hostile at best, cruel more often. Now, Crete was ruled by King Minos. He was favored by Poseidon, who bestowed a magnificent white bull, a gift which he was meant to sacrifice back to Poseidon. But King Minos was arrogant and refused. And the Greek gods are kind of dicks. Poseidon convinces Aphrodite to aid in his revenge, and she makes King Minos' wife, Pasiphae, fall in love with the bull. Full-on bestiality. And she convinces Daedalus to aid her. He builds a hollow cow covered in hide for the queen to hide in. It is then pushed into the bull's field so that she can have relations with it. The original Catherine the Great. From her affair, she would give birth to the Minotaur. Now, she isn't as young as you might think. Her son, Androgos, had his own children. Not sure on the family's birth order. The Minotaur may have been the middle child. The Greeks love the high drama. King Minos is mortified and demands that Daedalus construct something to hold the monster. And he settles on the Labyrinth. According to Homer, it is a single path with countless twists and turns. But other writers convert it into the maze of legend. It was so complicated that even Daedalus had gotten lost and had to figure out a way to navigate it. Due to the death of King Minos' son, Androgos, who was murdered in Athens, the Athenians were forced to send sacrifices, which were sent into the labyrinth and died. In time, Theseus is sent amongst the sacrifices, and King Minos' daughter, Princess Ariadne, sees and falls in love with Theseus. She then seeks to aid him and goes to Daedalus. Now, some say that he was from Athens, and seeing their youth sacrificed aided the princess's plea, and he told her how to navigate the labyrinth. A long line of string from the entrance led out behind you. Something you could always follow back. Theseus and Ariadne escaped from Crete after defeating the Minotaur. You might have noticed, but King Minos has some anger issues, and poor Daedalus was left to face it. He was locked up in the labyrinth with his son Icarus. But he wasn't the kind to give up without a fight. He managed to get access to beeswax and feathers. With that, he built a set of wings for himself and his son, and they flew away. Now, I'm betting that a few of you are saying that there is no possible way that this would work. And you are right. Humans cannot flap their arms with enough force or fast enough to generate flight. our arms are too narrow and our body is too heavy. But they may not have been flapping their wings. There are ways for humans to fly, such as a hang glider. Now, feathers and wax isn't going to work. Aren't going to work, but light would to provide a support and increase the size. Well, with that, it just might work if there was a strong enough windstorm going. But it had to be sunny. That is important. Yeah, a lot of freak coincidences would have to happen. Overall, very reckless, but trapped between life in a cage and a thin chance of escaping, which would you take? We can actually estimate how big the wing system was by comparing it to a modern hang glider. Now, there is a lot of variation, but roughly a 30 foot by 15 foot, 9 meter by 4.5 meters should work. Or in other words, 510 square feet, or 40.5 square meters of feather, wood, and wax. Oh, and that is insane. A beehive makes up to 2 pounds or 0.9 kilograms of wax a year. So he would have required all the wax from dozens of hives at least, probably hundreds. Hence, why I think he added wood. Silver fir wood is one of the lighter woods in Europe, and could be an option. Of course, this whole plan would require Daedalus to escape the labyrinth and then get to a tower, or that there was an opening in the labyrinth that faced a cliffside. Daedalus had a fear that the wax would not hold up to the heat of the sun, or that the wings would get too heavy if caught in the sea spray. Now, beeswax has an estimated melting temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius. Now, that would mean it was the hottest day in Greek history. Yeah, Daedalus was incorrect. As you go higher, the air actually gets colder. But beeswax is very soft and malleable, and that is the problem. Even without great heat, it is likely to change shape due to the strain of flight. Icarus would ignore his father's advice and soar too high after passing Labyrinth, where his wings would melt and he would crash into the ocean, only for his remains to wash up on the shore of Icaria, named after Icarus. Now, Crete to Icaria is 177 miles, 286 kilometers, and the point he crashed a little shorter than that, which would be a long flight by hang glider, but less than half that of the world record. So, not impossible, just incredibly unlikely. Especially since the best they could do is jump from a cliff or a tower. As Daedalus was mourning his son, a partridge showed up. The same bird that his nephew was turned into. Yeah, it sounds like he showed up just to add insult to injury. Maybe the nephew was just as bad to begin with. Greeks got more drama than a soap opera. After all of that, it is said that Daedalus was able to fly to Chemicus in Sicily, or Cumae. With the loss of his son, he founded a temple to Apollo and swore that he would never fly again, hanging up his wings within the temple. Now, King Minos wasn't done. He had been insulted far too many times by all of these tricks. He set out to find Daedalus. Now, how to find a genius in hiding? You present a puzzle. He challenged anyone to run a string through a spiral seashell. A little string through its own labyrinth. Fitting, don't you agree? Well, King Kokylus was hiding Daedalus, but was intrigued by the puzzle and gave it to his charge. And the genius solved it. Put a dab of honey on one end, tie the string to an ant on the other, and it gladly walked the string through the shell. King Minos knew that Daedalus was there, and demanded that he be surrendered, but King Kokylus convinced him to take a bath while they bring him Daedalus. It is argued who did it, either Kokylus, his daughter, or Daedalus, through pipes were able to pour boiling water onto King Minos and end him. Daedalus may have had another son, named Iapix, but this is heavily debated. But his tale isn't over. Eventually he died. In most versions, after everything was done, he was bitten by a snake and died. Where this happened depended on the story. His genius was impressive enough, even gaining the respect of Hephaestus. He was involved in his works to create automatons, moving machines of wood and metal. For a mere mortal to gain the respect of the god of craftsmen, that is a feat which should never be dismissed. He also built an elaborate dance floor for Princess Ariadne. Another of his inventions was the system of cells and riggings, which would flourish throughout Greece. His impact on mythology is incredible, a mortal whose brilliance was overshadowed by his arrogance, to be sure. If any challenge was presented to him, he would seek to solve it, always seeking to prove himself. Honestly, you could probably get him to do anything, if you just claim that he couldn't. Oh, it's too difficult. It's just a bit past what you can do. I'll get someone else. Yeah, that would work great on him. His genius inspired many others within Greek mythology, and the real-world saying, like flying too close to the sun. He is a cautionary tale about excessive ambition. Not just for him, but those around him. King Minos suffered many of the same problems. We also see it in his son who sought to reach the heavens, a feat which others had tried and were equally punished. Be sure to learn this for yourself. Honestly, he could have saved himself plenty of trouble if he had just refused the queen's insane requests. But no, he took it as a challenge. Adam stood at the base of the tower, while Daedalus and his son spoke at the top. He was shaking his head. How did he get talked into this? Craning his neck, he watched as the boy sprang from the tower. Large wooden wings strapped to his arms, and then he plummeted like a rock. Adam reacted with his magic, conjuring a wind which caught the boy and slowed his fall until he gently landed on the ground. Adam glared up at the old man. Was he crazy? Yeah, he was. The boy, not much better. Daedalus definitely was an interesting story. One where he is often the source of the conflict as much as he is the victim in the resolution. He has played many roles in his varied stories. Thank you for watching, adventurers. I feel it is appropriate that we address the Minotaur next. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.